Wolong Fallen Dynasty is a paradise for parrying. As with Sekiro and the other Souls-like gang, it's the antithesis of a button masher, a mystical martial arts extravaganza where timing is everything. Indeed, you really can parry everything in Wolong. Whether you're wielding a modest sword, a wooden staff or a spear, you can parry giant hammers, falling tigers or building-sized monsters. You can parry fireballs and lightning bolts. You can parry balls of magical energy and send them flying back to their caster. That one is especially fun. Personally, I'm not actually the parrying kind. In Souls-like games, I'm more of a dodge roller. Now in this game, parrying has become something I crave. It helps that once you're tuned to its rhythm, the timing actually feels instinctive. It also helps that it's a little bit forgiving and highly effective, so the gamble always feels worthwhile. You do, however, have to be wary of your spirit, which replaces the stamina gauge found in Nioh and most Souls-like games. It goes up as you land blows or down as you take damage, block or cast spells. Blocking too often then will empty your spirit and leave you stunned. Enemies also have unblockable special attacks signified by a red glow that have to be parried or avoided. But if you can deflect them, you smash through their spirit until they're stunned and open to a critical blow. With all these clever tweaks, it's thus easier to adopt a why not attitude to parrying, doubly so against larger opponents who seem to shrug off your regular blows. In effect, it's more dangerous not to parry because you'll be forced to engage these enemies for longer, while a few well-timed deflections and a critical hit might destroy them in a few seconds, especially when you turn their hardest hitting attacks back against them. Plus, instead of drawn-out exchanges, you instead get explosive face-offs which dramatically pivot in the blink of an eye. What's not to like? There's also an encouraging attitude to teamwork in Wolong, not only with its online co-op functionality, but especially in Wolong's first half. At the start of each level, you're often gifted one or two sidekicks to help you kick some ass. The support they offer is nicely balanced as well. They can generally be left alone to tackle minor enemies, but will get worn down by bosses if you don't pull your own weight. Mostly that's very welcome, because fighting more than one enemy at a time tends to be rather awkward. Although the presence of multiple heroes can make for a more chaotic adventure, sometimes enemies flip between attacking you and your buddy, leaving your strikes cleaving through thin air, while an overload of bodies can turn the melee into a mosh pit of swinging blades, until it actually becomes prudent to stand back and wait for things to calm down. Indeed, even on a couple of the mostly excellent bosses, I found it easier to dismiss my partner and go in solo in order to maintain that focus. It's perhaps best then to see employing the AI help not merely as a means of decreasing the challenge, but actually as a tactical consideration in its own right. Wolong has an interesting morale system, which determines your overall strength at any given moment during a stage, as well as that of your enemies. Winning battles raises morale, while dying resets it. But if you raise up your flag on flagpoles hidden around a level, that increases your fortitude, or minimum base morale, so dying isn't so costly. Scouring the levels to really get to grips with their geography, therefore, now has immediately tangible rewards. And because enemies have varying and visible morale levels too, you can see before engaging which are going to be especially strong and tough to dispatch. So you start to plan routes based on this information. On top of this, the layout of the levels themselves is more tactically engaging than in the Nioh games. Striding nonchalantly through areas generally results in death by a mob, but there's always at least one other way to approach a situation. It's usually possible to head around the back of a potential kill box and exterminate snipers, or hop onto roofs of battlements to scan the area to leap on foes from above. Nor do you have to be especially cunning while doing this, because Wolong often lets you get away with murder, thanks to enemies being artificially stupid rather than artificially intelligent. They rarely bat an eyelid when you're having a furious battle with one of their colleagues, not 10 meters away. Frankly, it's extremely silly, but it does work in a game that purrs most smoothly when you're delivering stylish executions or waist-deep in one-on-one combat. Where Wolong Fallen Dynasty does falter though is in its failure to fully address Nioh's laborious loot systems. Team Ninja may have taken another leaf out of Sekiro's book here and trimmed the bloat down, but instead it's pretty much business as usual. That is, the business of grabbing any shiny object lying around on the ground and tossing it into the inventory with a shrug. Half the time, I only noticed what I had collected between missions when I visited the blacksmith to junk most of it anyway for upgrade materials. Generally, you'll find copies of the same armor or weapon piece that is objectively worse than what you already own, and is only worth junking. The storytelling in Wolong Fallen Dynasty is another area that could do with a dust and polish, especially since Team Ninja has gone to the trouble of starting afresh with its setting and mythology, shifting from Nioh's feudal Japan to the late Han Dynasty in China. In structure and execution though, the saga remains as undercooked as the last. You're pelted with factions and characters in a steady stream, with little time to remember who any particular person is before the next one arrives. Presumably a little more historical knowledge on my part would go a long way here, but that doesn't account for the rushed plotting and editing, and the humdrum script that fails to bring these personalities to life. Wolong seems Team Ninja build on the core quality of the Nioh games. Its new systems, from the spirit gauge to morale levels within each stage, feel well considered and tightly honed to encourage exploration and bold, expressive fighting styles. Some old habits die hard, especially the tiresome loot gathering, but the game's core combat and traversal options always shine through. When you meet the largest or most fearsome foe head-on, remain steadfast, then push aside their best combo like a martial arts master before spearing them through the gut. It's irresistibly exhilarating. Wolong's cocktail of measured inputs and furious blows alone should keep the focused warrior going to the end. Keep calm and parry on. We give Wolong Fallen Dynasty 4 stars out of 5.